What's up, guys? One thing I hate while working on a car is electrical gremlins. Mechanical side, no issue. I can normally sort it out. Anything electrical tends to piss me off. And C5 Corvettes, like the one you see behind me, are notorious for electrical gremlins. More specifically, parasitic draws on your battery. So today I'm going to show you a few little pointers and tips to figure out that parasitic draw. So stick around. Alright, so to do this, you don't need much. You need just a very basic multimeter. You can get these for like $5. Very inexpensive, but a really good tool to use for a lot of different things. So we're going to do 4 checks. 2 using this, and the other 2 are just very simple. Now, real quick, before you start doing any kind of parasitic troubleshooting on any car, not just the Corvette, you want to make sure your battery is good. And to do that, well, obviously, if you can start your car just fine, your battery going to be fine. Or use a multimeter like the one provided here, or the one you would have. Simply put it to 20 volts on your guy right here. Put these leads to your battery, and assuming it's above 12 volts, you should be good. A good battery is about 12.5, but above 12, especially if it's starting in a few days, should be good to go. And if you're still not sure if the battery is good or not, it's being kind of weird, take it to your local auto parts store. They can do a load test, a cold cranking amp test to make sure it's good to go. All right, I'm gonna take us out to a little stand here, and I'll show you a few things you can do to find this parasitic draw on your battery. All right, so first things first, I'll just show you real quick how to make sure your battery's good. And volts on your multimeter, they're all pretty much the same. Put this guy to your volts over here to about 20, well, not to about, but you wanna put it to 20 volts right there. You're gonna take your 2 leads right here. I got one hand to do this, so bear with me. Obviously, you're negative on your negative. All right, so I'm at 12.2. I haven't drove this in a couple days, so that's about right. And again, obviously, if your car is starting fine and you get above 12 volts, your battery should be okay to figure out this parasitic draw. The first 2 things you want to try are very simple, and a lot of people don't even think about this. You simply want to turn off all the lights in your garage. I'm not going to do because I'm filming this, but turn off every light you have. You want to do this at night, preferably, and you want to look inside your cabin. I recommend rolling the windows down, closing the car up, taking the key out, and look for any light in the glove box maybe. Maybe the rear trunk isn't closing all the way. Maybe you have a weird light under your hood that's not going out. Maybe you look for a light around your dash, under your dash. A lot of times you can figure out a weird draw just visually inspecting it. So that's number 1. Number 2, something no one ever thinks about, and that's listening. A lot of times little motors and little actuators around the car make little noises. I know in the C5 Corvette specifically, a lot of times the motors up here for the headlights will make little noises when you're connecting and disconnecting the battery. There's some vacuum pumps up here. There's all kind of weird little motors underneath the dash, actuators for the AC cooling system and blend door actuators in your door, even your trunk release in the back. All have little motors and actuators. Sometimes they get stuck, sometimes they go bad. So again, close everything up, make sure the car is off, and just listen. Walk around your car and just listen. I know it sounds silly, but sometimes you can find a little hum or a little mechanical noise coming from a bad component. So those are the 2 kind of crude ways of finding a parasitic draw on a battery. Now we're going to go into the multimeter and show you how you can diagnose even further if neither one of those help you in any way. All right, now the first way, we're going to do it kind of very similar to how we check the voltage on the battery. And the 2 things you got to know before we go any further is where the 2 fuse boxes are for the C5 Corvette. And there's one right here. You unscrew this right here. This will come right off. And the second one is down here, in case you weren't familiar. You're going to do this. Those 2 tabs are up there. This will come down and it'll expose some more fuses. Now this is a very crude DIY real quick. I'm not going to take any fuse boxes apart or anything. And I assume you know how to take out a fuse out of a fuse box. Very simple, you're simply going to pull it. What's going to happen is, if you have a pretty extreme draw, your 2 leads and voltage just on 20 volts, and you see the voltage dropping, for mine, for instance, is 12.22, and it'll stay 12.22 for quite a while. Tomorrow morning it might be 12.19. Now, if you hook it up and you can see the volts dropping relatively quickly. We're talking like to your 0.10th degree, dropping every couple seconds, you have a pretty good draw. What you can do then is simply take out one fuse at a time, see if the draw stops, and then put it back. If you see the draw stop, you know that's your issue. That's the circuit in question. Furthermore, on the back of the fuse panel, right here, it shows you every corresponding circuit to what it is. And that'll tell you exactly where to look, what your issue is, and you can troubleshoot from there. All right, now the second way to do this with your multimeter is you want to take your red lead, move it from milliamps to amps, just like that. You're going to put this guy to 10 amps, just like that. And this is now going to be in series with your battery. So what you have to do is to actually disconnect your negative terminal. I have one hand, but I'm going to explain to you how this works. Now, again, this would be disconnected, okay? And actually, no, I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect and I'll show you. All right, so it doesn't matter which one's which. It's a DC circuit. You're just connecting the circuit. But yeah, one here. I can make this work, maybe. If not, I can just show you a picture. But long story short, you'll get a reading right here. It should read no more than 0.01 amp draw for a battery at idle. If it's higher than that, you have a pretty good parasitic draw that needs to be addressed. And again, to do that, I recommend alligator clips, which I don't have, and I apologize, for both of these, so you can keep this on while working, and you're going to remove one fuse at a time until you find the circuit in question. And then once you know what circuit, then you'll troubleshoot that circuit for that system, AC system, radio, ignition, the door lock, etc., etc. That'll pinpoint you in the right direction to know what system on your car is drawing a parasitic draw. Now, one thing I do want to address, I recently did a pretty extensive electrical overhaul. I put a push button start in my C5 Corvette about a month ago. I've noticed, and I'll do a follow-up video on the push button start with more in depth on this, when the key fob is in range, I do have a draw of a 0.5 amps. When I take this out of range, it drops down to about 0.125. I can live with that. The key fob for the push button start does have a draw when it can detect it in range, but I will cover this more in a future video. So it's not an issue as long as I don't leave the key fob in the garage or in the car overnight, not a big deal. But yes, it is kind of a weird anomaly. Well, I hope at least someone got something out of this really quick crash course on how to find a parasitic draw on a Corvette or any car really. Any questions, feel free to ask me below and I'll answer them as best as I can. And again, this is much easier to do with alligator clips, and I didn't even think about it while going into this video, so I apologize I couldn't really show you too well with my leads, unfortunately, but it's very simple, very crude way to do this, but it works pretty damn well. So that's all I have for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll catch you guys next time.